The conservation issues that we're dealing with today are not simple. They're very complex, controversial issues, many of them global in nature.
We need to realize that we need the natural world in order to live. Gifford Pinchot was a strong advocate of that. Using natural resources for making people's lives better.
Gifford Pinchot was the founder of the United States Forest Service. The agency started with his vision over 100 years ago.
On his 21st birthday, coincidentally the date chosen to celebrate the completion of the family cottage, Gray Towers, Gifford Pinchot received as a gift the seminal environmental text, Man and Nature, by George Perkins Marsh.
He was more than a forester. He was the father of American conservation.
Gifford Pinchot was one of those heroes in the pantheon, along with John Muir, George Bird Grinnell, Aldo Leopold.
As America's first forester, Gifford Pinchot established the profession in America, founding the Yale School of Forestry and the Society of American Foresters. He served as chief of the United States Forest Service during its largest period of growth. With his friend and fellow progressive, Theodore Roosevelt, in the White House, he expanded the national forests to 193 million acres. His principles of practical conservation would guide the sustainable management of those forests in the interest of the people.
The key question for the Forest Service in its early days was, how do you take these resources, which seem infinite, recognize that they're finite, and then distribute them equitably across this nation? He was convinced that forestry would only succeed if the citizenry felt that it was paying a dividend to them. And the key for him then is that wonderful sentence, the greatest good of the greatest number in the longest run.
His notion was a real revision on the capitalist enterprise of the late 1800s. The first principle being develop the resources for the benefit of the present generation, protect the integrity of those resources so you can develop them for the benefit of future generations. And really the most controversial part of it is making those resources available for the benefit of all the people, not just the privileged few.
The president was in Milford on this day to dedicate the estate as a gift from the Pinchot family to the nation. A new era of environmentalism sought to redefine the greatest good. The Pinchot family, the Forest Service, and the leading conservation thinkers of the time established the Pinchot Institute for Conservation to do research, policy analysis, and conservation education, addressing emerging conservation concerns.
The fact of the matter is that this institute is needed more today than ever before in our history, because we are reaching the limits of our fundamental needs of water to drink, of fresh air to breathe, of open space to enjoy, of abundant sources of energy.
Gifford Pinchot's principles of practical conservation would prove adaptive to the changing needs of a changing country, emerging as the most effective approach to complex conservation issues. This 50th anniversary marks a time to reflect on Gifford Pinchot's life and how his legacy of practical conservation continues today through the work of the Pinchot Institute and Gray Towers National Historic Site.
Gray Towers, to me, is a place that embodies a lot of the principles that I believe in as a conservationist.
Gray Towers is a very, very special place in America. To Forest Service people, it is the birthplace of conservation and our agency. The Forest Service here at Gray Towers has a unique opportunity in our partnership with the Pinchot Institute for Conservation. We have a national agency that has resources across our country. The Pinchot Institute brings the policy ability and the access to academic resources that really provide a very bountiful conversation about conservation.
Our efforts here at Gray Towers carry forward Gifford Pinchot's philosophy of conservation today, bringing people together, people of widely divergent interests, to work through those differences in a non-confrontational way and devise solutions that allow us to address the conservation challenges of our own time with solutions that work environmentally, economically, and socially.
It's a sense of that reaching back into the past, feeling the sheer power and joy of being in the presence of that past, and then reflecting on people who are struggling with the issues now in that context. It rehabilitates people.
I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned by looking back at the way conservation took shape. He was a very practical conservationist. And I think in this day and age, we need to be practical.
I think he's fundamentally relevant to us today for his understanding of the politics of environment, of his understanding of the nature of a federal state and its control over public lands. Those are issues that are still before us.
We still think about the principles that Gifford Pinchot laid out and the motivation he had for the National Forest Service.
His particular approach to conservation is even more relevant today than it was then, because the issues are so complex and because the secret really to being able to do conservation moving forward in the 21st century is conservation through sustainable use.
"50 years after President Kennedy's dedication, the scientific research and policy analysis carried out by the Pinchot Institute, alongside the Forest Service and with many other partners, provides creative new insights and objective information to advance conservation on a national and global scale. The Pinchot Institute for Conservation and Gray Towers National Historic Site serve to this day as an incubator of innovation and a catalyst for change. They are able to push forward conservation by providing an environment where people representing different interests convene to gain understanding and work toward democratic solutions to complex conservation issues.